I guess we can go into the comedy ones now, right?
The trilogy.
We're doing trilogies. This is the trilogy night.
Just like John Carpenter's trilogy, these are also completely unrelated. Yeah, so horror comedies, there's kind of a weird niche.
Yeah.
For that. I don't think there's a lot of them. Other than like the scary movies, which are just shit.
That doesn't really count. It has to be comedy.
Technically, it would be considered comedy by the most loose of rules. You know what I mean, though. It's technically would probably be in the same category.
Right.
But these are light years ahead. Probably start with Evil Dead.
Yeah, that's what I think it was the first one, right?
Yeah.
I want to say before Ghostbusters, maybe.
Yeah. If only we had the movies. 1981 is the first Evil Dead.
Okay, that's got to be before. Why doesn't it say? 1989, yeah. So okay. Definitely before.
But Evil Dead is one of those movies that a lot of people talk about because it's got a very interesting story behind it, which is basically college students made it over the course of 4 years. And they had to keep recasting all like the female leads and stuff because everyone kept moving on with their lives. But it's a really interesting behind the scenes. Like Sam Raimi waves to himself, or not to himself, but he waves to the characters. I think Bruce Campbell is the other one waving as Bruce Campbell's in the car.
Yep.
And your fun little bit of trivia about Bruce Campbell.
Yeah, Bruce Campbell. I learned this recently that the only reason he ended up being the lead, it was originally supposed to be Scotty who survived, but Bruce Campbell just had the most free time, so that was the reason why he got the role. So that was the reason why he wasn't killed off. So. Yeah,
it's if people aren't familiar, it's a very simple movie. A lot of I think the best horror movies take place in very isolated locations, single locations, very cramped, very claustrophobic feeling. Mm-hmm. And the entire premise of the original Evil Dead is just it takes place in a cabin. Everybody gets haunted. The cabin and the woods around it start haunting everyone and attacking them. And Bruce Campbell survives, and that's about it.
Right, that's about it.
It's amazing how. I mean, especially for how young and inexperienced Sam Raimi was at the time, and that was his first movie.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They also fire live ammunition on set, which is another fun. Definitely do that in movies. Fire live ammunition on set.
Makes it feel real.
At the time, using live ammunition to shoot out windows, it was a perfectly practical thing with no special effects people around or safety guys or stunt coordinator. The camera guy would just put a bag over his head and get low and hope that the buckshot didn't hit him. That made sense to us at the time.
But it's one of those just classic comedies. It's very weird because it is kind of tongue-in-cheek. It's kind of aware of the cheesiness of itself.
Right.
But it's also a really fun movie, and Bruce Campbell is probably, next to like Harrison Ford, like the most suave.
Right.
Yeah.
The most suave. He's like the B-movie version of Harrison Ford, basically. Yeah.
Like, and Bruce Campbell should have been more stuff.
Yeah. He's been in more stuff lately. Yeah. It's kind of like the same situation with Sam Neill, where I originally didn't know Bruce Campbell from Evil Dead, which is, I presume, what most people know him from. I originally knew him from Burn Notice, you know.
Also great. I forget that he was in that. Yeah. He's a really great character.
He is great, yeah.
Too bad that show went way too long.
Yeah. Well, it was about a season too long, honestly.
Was it? I guess I don't know how far I got. I think I got like halfway through it.
Right. It wasn't bad in the final season, it just wasn't as good.
It's a really good... not to get sidetracked and cut all this out, but I still really like the pilot of that show. It's one of my favorite pilots. It's a great pilot. It throws you right in. There's so many great little quippy lines. It's
one of the few shows that I think has like an equally good, if not better, first season compared to the rest of them. Yeah. Anyway, Bruce Campbell's in that one, and he's also in Evil Dead.
Chin.
So we were talking earlier, and I described Sam Raimi movies as, I was comparing them to Coen Brothers movies, because I was saying Coen Brothers movies are kind of weird, but also engaging, you know?
You want to know how it plays out because you're so confused by the premise and what's happening in front of you.
And I feel like Sam Raimi's movies are very similar because they're weird stylistically, but they're fun, you know? they're very light. They don't take themselves too seriously.
They're
like you were
usually
saying.
pretty self-aware.
Right. And Evil Dead is no exception. He started off, he kind of carved that niche for himself pretty early in his career. And Evil Dead, basically, it's a trilogy of loosely connected, sort of weird timelined movies.
It doesn't matter.
Go progressively off the rails in terms of their content.
They get more on the humor side and
Right.
less on the horror side as they go.
Yeah, the first one was a pretty cut and dry, like, let's try to make a horror movie. The second one was essentially a soft reboot of the first one because, it
Better
even kind
budget,
of,
more special effects, things like that.
It's sort of unclear as to whether or not they're even different or if they both happen.
They're definitely different. I mean, if you watch them back to back, they're different. They have the same general premise.
Well, no,
the stuff that happens is pretty different.
But let me put it this way: the way Evil Dead, none of the Evil Dead movies end in the same way that the next movie begins. I'll say that, yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah.
So it's kind
There's
of
some
unclear.
discombobulation.
Right, because
My dime store word for the night.
discombobulation.
That word should come back.
Bringing it back, like Sam Neill. Evil Dead 1 ends with, I presume that it's because they thought they were never going to get a sequel, so it's implied that, like, Bruce Campbell's character dies at the end, because, like, the camera, like, follows him, and he's, like, screams, as the movie closes, but in the beginning of Evil Dead 2, there's, like, a short recap of the events of the first one, and then it's just revealed that he's, like, thrown into a puddle, and then his hand gets possessed, and he chops it off.
That's pretty much the movie.
Yeah, which leads to there's some very, very funny scenes of basically Bruce Campbell punching himself in the face.
And fighting his hand.
Yeah,
Just
and fighting
generally
his
his
hand.
possessed, just his hand.
Right.
They're so stupid. It's so great.
There's a lot of, like, just dumb fun stuff like that in Evil Dead. And then at the ending of Evil Dead 2, it basically closes with Ash getting sucked into a portal.
Yeah,
and
like
landing,
a demon portal.
Yeah,
because the end of the movie, a demon comes through the wall and is trying to suck him,
trying to get sucked,
and he ends up getting sucked through a portal to medieval times.
Yeah, and then also ends differently from the way that Evil Dead 3 picks up.
Right.
Because at the end of Evil Dead 2, he shoots, like, a flying zombie, and all the knights are, like, cheering him on. And then at the end of Evil Dead, or the beginning of Evil Dead 3, they capture him, and he's, like, not a hero. So,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Completely different.
Hail he who has come from the skies to deliver us from the terrors of the Deadites! Hail! Hail! Hail!
My name is Ash, and I am a slave.
Not a great timeline.
Yeah, but anyway, weird timeline stuff aside, each movie by itself is fun,
Oh, yeah,
it's
for sure.
it's a good time, it's a blast. So,
And like you said, they get progressively hammier on
Uh-huh.
purpose. So Army of Darkness is just like a full comedy,
Just
basically,
straight up,
of Bruce Campbell making funny jokes
and like beating himself up.
and beating himself up, and that's the one where he's first introduced as where he works at the store, right?
Yeah, because that's the ending of Evil Dead
Yeah,
3
yeah,
or of Army
yeah.
of Darkness. Yeah, that's where the famous like "Hail to the King." Or
Yeah,
whatever,
there's
"All hail
a
the
lot
King."
of the famous lines and stuff are from Army of Darkness,
Right.
the third one.
Well, that's the one where he mostly uses the chainsaw hand too. So, because it was only very briefly used in Evil Dead 2, but
They're so great. They're silly and like they just don't care.
Yeah.
I think that's what's great is they just do not give a shit.
Mhm.
They're just doing whatever they want, and that's very Sam Raimi.
it's highly Sam Raimi. Yeah, it also was apparently the beginning of a big, what's the word? A big friendship, a budding friendship between.
You really are having a hard time with words.
Between
A big friendship.
a big friendship between Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell. Because I remember there was an interview recently.
Lifelong friendship.
Where somebody was asking Bruce Campbell if he was gonna appear in MCU Spider-Man movies, because like they did that with J.K. Simmons.
Yeah.
And for anyone who doesn't know, Bruce Campbell had cameos.
Yes, in all 3 Sam Raimi Spider-Man
Right.
movies, and he was eventually, in a 4th one that never happened, going to be Mysterio, and I'm still disappointed by that.
It is a little, yeah, as much as I thought Jake Gyllenhaal did a pretty good job in Far From Home, Bruce Campbell would have
Did a fine job.
We
I miss
all
Bruce
wanted to
Campbell.
see Bruce Campbell as Mysterio
Yes.
in the big fishbowl helmet.
Especially because it's such a niche, like, I guarantee only, like, 5% of people who saw the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies knew that was what his cameo was, because it's such a specific thing.
But anyway, they asked him if he was going to try to reprise his role, or if he'd been offered it, and he's like, if Sam Raimi's not directing, I'm not interested in appearing in a Spider-Man movie, so...
Yeah, I want to read Bruce Campbell's autobiography, because he's a very, like, hermit-like person now.
Right,
He lives in the middle of nowhere, like, in some fucking mountains, and he just takes roles that he wants, like, every now and again. Like, he's very selective about what he... Like, stuff that he actively wants to be in, not just because it's a job. Like, he actually wants to be in it, like the Evil Dead show and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Which I've been meaning to watch.
Right, yeah, I did actually finish the 2nd season recently.
Did you?
It's an enjoyable show. It doesn't really... It's hard to describe it, again, because I think the first couple of episodes you could definitely feel, like, the Raimi factor.
Yeah.
But it kind of does... Like, the premise wears a little thin after a while. In many ways, though, it's very watchable, and Bruce Campbell's, like, charisma carries it pretty far. I think so yeah,
just Bruce Campbell alone would probably be enough to get me to watch it, because he's just fun to watch. Like, you can tell he's having a lot of fun. Again, only taking roles that he actually wants, like, would enjoy doing.
Absolutely.
It's not like Harrison Ford, where you can tell he hates everyone and just wants to die.
Or he's like, not trying to. Yeah, I was gonna say, it's not like he's trying to kill off all of his characters so that people don't stop asking him. But yeah, like, I would say it's worth a watch. It's pretty short. There's like 10 episodes, or like 20 minutes each.
Yeah, I really should prioritize it and finish it, because I can't imagine it would take long.
But yeah, he's clearly having a fun time. It's fun because of that. There are some inventive episodes in the 2nd season that kind of take the physical comedy of Army of Darkness and dial it up to 12, I guess, because it was already dialed up to 11. But like, there's particularly one great scene in the 2nd season where there's a demon that's, like, trying to convince him. The demon's pulling the classic, "Hero, you're insane. You're in a mental asylum. You've imagined this whole plot, thing on Ash." And basically, he has a possessed puppet of himself that, like, talks to him and, like, punches him. The whole, like, that's great.
Again,
that stuff's great.
Ash, you're gonna get us in big trouble. What are you doing?
I'm busting out of here. That's what I'm doing. Now listen, you mind your P's and Q's. I'll see to it that you're taken care of.
Keep talking.
But yeah, if you haven't seen Evil Dead, give that a watch too.
But watch all of them. Watch the TV show. They're a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So What We Do in the Shadows is a movie by it's a mockumentary, if you will. I hate that word, but that's what it is. Where a bunch of New Zealand vampires live in a flat together. They're flatmates. And it's basically just about them going about and existing in society.
Society.
Fuck me, I hate that word now.
We're living in a society!
And it was originally like 500 hours of film, and they cut it down to like an hour and a half movie. But it's basically just vampire satire. So there's a really old vampire, like a Nosferatu vampire. There's a very young vampire. He's like 100 years old.
Right.
And there's like very classic like Bram Stoker vampire that's like very sexual and things. And
Viago was an 18th century dandy.
A ghost cop. Vladislav is a bit of a pervert.
This is my torture chamber.
Deacon's like the young bad boy of the group.
I'm supposed to pay rent, but I don't.
A lot of it's like little sketches and things that they do, so it's kind of hard to like. There's not a whole ton of overarching plot, but it's just a really fun movie. Not a huge budget. One of like the first big things I think Taika Waititi did. Now he's a big deal. Right. That was one of his earlier things.
Well, this was before Thor Ragnarok, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I think this was like his first big. I could be wrong. I'm not a Taika Waititi expert, but I'm pretty sure this was like his first like big breakout comedy thing that he did, and then that people kind of noticed him.
Because again, this one does kind of fill its own niche.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Can't think of many other comedic takes on modern vampire life.
It's such a simple idea. It's basically just like some comedy friends fuck around and pretend to be vampires.
Some comedy friends.
But it works really, really well.
Right.
And it's a lot of fun. And like they have feuds with werewolves, and so there's a whole subplot with
werewolves, not swearwolves.
Yeah, werewolves, not swearwolves. But it's one of those things that's kind of hard to explain. Like I said, there's a lot of like little bits and things because it's very impromptu, very improv-y.
Mm-hmm.
But it's definitely worth giving a watch. It's a very entertaining movie. It's not really a horror movie.
Yep.
In any, it's
horror related. Horror adjacent. Yeah.
I think there's there's some gore stuff, but for the most part, it's just making fun of vampires and vampire life. And
right.
Vampire life. Plus, you get those sexy New Zealand accents.
Yeah, never gets old.
Never gets old.
I think that this is a great example of a movie that, because a lot of times on this channel we'll talk about the reason a movie fails at delivering its story is because of the writing, or like because of the way the narrative is portrayed, and that it's not the actor's fault, And I think that this is a great example of like the other direction of that, where the reason this movie succeeds has very little to do with the writing, because most of it's ad-libbed, and it's most of it is carried purely on like the character that each
interactions
and the interactions that they have. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a big thing with comedy is the interactions. Like obviously it's a big thing in any film, the way your characters interact and whether or not you like them.
Right.
But in comedy especially, you have to be able to work off of each other and be able to improv well. Right. And that's not a skill that everybody has. And that's something I think that makes the movie really great.
Yeah.
It's just how well they work off of each other.
And I don't know if this group of actors really, I'm not really familiar with them. I don't know if they've worked together before, but they have great chemistry, and it really does come across as though they know each other,
Yeah.
Whether or not they do IRL or not, but yeah.
Hey, that was... Don't swear. What are we? Werewolves, not werewolves.
Also, they made a TV show for what they did, what they do in the shadows. I watched the first season. It's not bad. It's not as good as the movie.
It's not the same.
It's not the same. Again, a lot of what carries the movie is the interactions between the main characters and how they're able to riff off each other. But
I think a big thing is also just the tone loses a lot of its draw once you corporatize it, or just like write it, because so much of it is ad lib, so much of it is improv. You can't really emulate that through a writer's room.
Yeah, it's a really great film. It's not that old either.
2014.
2014.
Yeah, I thought so.
You get a gold star.
Thank you.
You get another Dragon's Milk. All right, and I think time to talk about our third film, Ghostbusters, which most people have seen.
Yeah, this one's not really niche,
at all, but it's still I think one of the best movies just in terms of comedy.
Right.
I would say. And again, it's so different and it's so specific, and Dan Aykroyd is crazy.
Yeah, this was from back before Dan Aykroyd made Crystal Mayan Skull Vodka or whatever.
Skull Vodka, yeah.
We should have brought that down for the video. Yeah, we actually do have some of that. But yeah, I mean, the first one is obviously an all-time classic. You got Bill Murray, Harold Ramis, Dan Aykroyd.
Again, some really great characters.
Winston Zeddemore, what's his name? What's the guy's name?
Almost got racist fast. Is he not on the front? Is Winston Zeddemore not on the front?
Wow. Racism. He's not, no.
What?
Where's Winston Zeddemore? Hang on.
How are the Ghostbusters not on the front?
Exposed. Whoever made this cover is keeping Winston Zeddemore down. Of course, we can't remember his name, so...
Can we cut this out? That's kind of shitty, actually. He's one of the Ghostbusters.
What is his name? Oh, Ernie Hudson. There we go, yeah. That's what I was about to say, yeah.
Kind of bothers me that the four Ghostbusters are on the front.
Like the first.
You don't think they couldn't? You think they couldn't fit his name up here?
Fit.
Yeah, Rick Moranis, Sigourney Weaver, but anyway, Columbia Pictures exposed for being racist pigs that they are.
Hashtag Where's Winston?
Anyway, carry on.
Yeah, Ghostbusters 1. We need to explain the plot. I mean, everybody's seen Ghostbusters, yeah.
It's really good. Watch it again.
Watch it this Halloween.
It's one of those movies that's just like, again, the characters play off each other really well. Bill Murray, obviously, is a legend.
Yep. There are a lot of little like subtle hints and subtle character play in that movie too that really go like a long way to increasing. It's not really believability, but like immersion.
Yeah, I don't. It's another one of those things where you wouldn't think like on paper it doesn't sound like something that would work.
Right. Yeah.
But it does for some reason, and it's not like the plot or anything. It's just the way that the characters interact and the dry humor. There's a lot of dry humor.
It's a classic example of like an emergent system of a movie because it's more than the sum of its parts. You could take this exact same script with and just change like the director and the leads, and it wouldn't have been a hit.
It'd be a terrible movie.
Yeah,
it'd be like a C movie.
Right.
But for some reason, it's just all the right things came into you have a great theme song. You've got so many great quotable lines from the movie.
Until our power grid was shut off by Dickless over here.
Is
this true? This man has no dick.
Everything was fine with our system until the power grid was shut off by Dickless here.
They caused an explosion.
Is this true?
Yes, it's true. This man has no dick.
Yeah, there's so many great lines. Even the special effects are fun. They're very dated, but they're fun. They're great.
It's part of the charm.
They're like etched onto the. It's great. Everyone's seen this movie. Go watch it again. Don't watch the second one. Don't watch the third one.
If that counts.
Maybe watch the new third one.
If Bill Murray's in that one, right? All the surviving ones are in it.
Possibly. I mean, all those surviving ones were in.
But they were. Listen, they got contractually bullied into doing that. They weren't. They clearly didn't want.
Doesn't Bill Murray have a line like he wants to kill himself in the movie?
Doesn't he kill himself?
Doesn't he get kicked out of a window and die?
I don't even remember. I try to not remember that the third Ghostbusters. Yeah.
Oh hell no! The devil is a liar! Get out of my friend Ghost!
That this franchise is headed for a disaster of biblical proportion.
We'll see if maybe we'll do a video on that one.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely do Ghostbusters 2020.
I'm very, very, very cautiously optimistic about it.
If it's not a sequel to the 2016 Ghostbusters, they have a chance.
I think it's completely unrelated. Good. I think they've burned that bridge. That bridge burned that bridge.
Yeah, pretty much.
It combusted. It burst into flames. But no, it's the son of the director, right?
Is it?
That's writing and directing it.
I don't know that.
I think so.
Oh.
Also, Paul Rudd's in it for some reason.
Sons of directors have been super hit or miss because wasn't John Kasdan the one who wrote Solo, and he was Lawrence Kasdan's son, right? So
that may be true.
Sad times.
Listen, I'm like I said, very, very, very cautiously optimistic. We'll see. There hasn't been a good Ghostbusters since Ghostbusters 1.
No.
So it's not a we hate women thing. It's just there hasn't been a good Ghostbusters since Ghostbusters 1.
But we also do hate women, just to be clear.
For sure. That's the official stance of the Echo Chamber. Next.
What else we got? Do you want to talk? Do you have any like other horror movies you want to talk about?
Cut this out, but
yeah,
fucking RLM takes all the good ones.
That's gonna be the end tag. You know that, right?